and welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Bridget and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my new diagnosis. As you can see from the title, it's just a little life update and I'm just going to be talking more about my diagnosis and how it took 10 years for me to finally get diagnosed. So basically, I was diagnosed with my Goodpasture syndrome that caused my kidney failure in 2010. And my first symptoms were throwing up all the time. I kind of had like a flu symptoms. It was just, I was waking up, I had fever, chills, I was just throwing up all the time. And then after like the cough and everything went away, I was still throwing up all the time. And it was just basically a part of like my routine. I would just wake up, I'd throw up, I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd throw up, and then I'd go to bed. And it was just a repeat cycle. And then once I finally got diagnosed with my Goodpasture syndrome, they were like, oh yeah, this is why you were throwing up so much. It was from all the toxins built up in your system. So you were just throwing everything up. And then after I finally got on dialysis, they were like, oh yeah, your body will, get better after time and you'll stop throwing up. But I was still throwing up on dialysis. And they were saying that I was throwing up because the dialysis was too much on my body. So they tried giving me different prophylactics and antacids to help with my stomach, to help me from throwing up, but nothing ever worked. And then they were basically like, yeah, well, after your transplant, you should definitely not be throwing up. There would not be any reason why you would be, you should be throwing up. So post-transplant, I was doing really good for a while, and then bam, I was back to throwing up all the time. It was just unexplainable. They didn't know why. It was kind of like, all right, well, let's play with your medication. Let's see if this is what's causing it. Let's see if this is what's causing it. But they didn't know. They could never figure out why. There was always many different reasons. And I was always having seizures as well. When I first got diagnosed, they said it was because of my high blood pressure that was causing my seizures. And I also had neurovasculitis. So I had water and swelling in my brain from my autoimmune disease. So they were like, this is why you're having seizures. It's the neurovasculitis and it's the high blood pressure. So it all made sense in the beginning, and I was having seizures a lot more frequently. And then I didn't have a seizure for a while. And then about 3 years after my transplant, I had a grand mal seizure at work. And they had basically just said, oh, maybe it's your medication. You probably just missed a dose or whatever, so that was why. So there was always just kind of little reasons as to why, and they would always just kind of put like little band-aids over why things were happening. January in 2019, I was in the hospital for throwing up blood, and I just had diarrhea. It was horrible. So I was admitted into the hospital, and I got an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and that's when they found my ulcerative colitis. So that was also another reason why they thought that I was throwing up so much, is because they were like, oh, it's your ulcerative colitis flare-ups that's causing you to throw up and have diarrhea, which obviously made complete sense to me. So, that made sense. So time went on, I was on medication, and then I have always struggled really bad with body pains, but I did a RA panel years ago, and everything came back negative, although I did have markers for lupus and other autoimmune diseases. So we finally did another full panel a couple months ago, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Thank God I did not have lupus, just rheumatoid arthritis, but that was also another factor that played in. So basically they were like, it's the ulcerative colitis and it's the rheumatoid arthritis, and from all the pain, it's causing you to throw up. And like I said, all of these things made so much sense. Had countless ER visits for the reason being body pains and nausea and vomiting, of just episodes where I will wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and not stop throwing up until 10, 11 in the morning. It will not stop. The only thing that gives me some type of relief is marijuana. I will smoke, and that's literally the only thing that will help. I've been having these symptoms since I was 13 and did not touch marijuana until I was 18. And I specifically started smoking because my nephrologist told me it would help with my nausea. So it's the only thing that actually gives me some relief, and it has saved me a lot of emergency visits. It's just the days where I'm throwing up for 6-7 hours. The marijuana doesn't help. I've thrown up 40 times. So I have to go to the hospital. And of course, since I'm a transplant patient, the dehydration is a very, very, very big issue. I can't take a risk being dehydrated. That's not, obviously, I take way too many medications and I want to be as safe as I can with my kidneys. So the day when I was there 2 days ago, I was in the emergency room throwing up for hours. I waited 2 hours to be seen. And when I finally saw the doctor, he told me that my pain was all in my head. And I was beside myself. The lack of compassion has really gone downhill, and just the simple fact of me being a kidney transplant patient and having all my other chronic illnesses on top of that as well, to have a doctor tell you that the pain is all in your head, I was livid. So I waited 7 hours in the emergency room, got anti-nausea medication, and when I asked for more anti-nausea medication and pain medication, he denied and discharged me. I left the hospital still in pain and still throwing up. So there are a lot of times where the ER they don't know anything about this and they don't believe it. So they're basically just like, no, you just want drugs, just get out of here. And the fact with this syndrome, the cyclic vomiting syndrome, is there is no actual medication or cure for this, disorder. There's nothing they can do about it. So every time I go to the emergency room and I tell them, basically they give me pain medication, they give me anti-nausea medication, and they give me fluids, and they send me on my way. They have to just basically make me stable. I've never had a doctor that looked into it further and was like, okay, you're throwing up 40, 50 times, it's lasting 10 hours, maximum. You're in excruciating pain. These aren't normal symptoms of ulcerative colitis or rheumatoid arthritis or post-kidney transplant. So let's try and connect the dots here. Honestly, it makes me really sad because, like I had said in one of my prior videos, when I was first diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, I went to the emergency room probably over 10 times with symptoms of kidney failure, that I was throwing up all the time, I was fatigued, I was just so many things. My levels were out of whack and they never caught it until I was completely end stage. So it just really, really, really worries me that the emergency rooms don't seem to care at all. We obviously go there for help and we don't get any. It's been 10 years and the only reason we actually got this diagnosis was because my mom brought it up and they were like, oh, yeah. There was never an actual doctor that brought it to our attention. We had to do the research. We had to find out what this was because we knew none of this made sense. And ever since I got diagnosed with my ulcerative colitis and my rheumatoid arthritis, I've been a part of support groups, and I have not found anybody that have had this type of symptoms of throwing up every single day. So we always knew this was definitely something different. And especially because I was having unexplainable migraines, seizures, just so many things that didn't make sense still after I was in remission from my Goodpasture syndrome, and after the transplant, there was still so much going on. And even though, like I said, there's no really cure for this disorder at the moment, I'm honestly just super happy I have a diagnosis. As to why I'm throwing up, why I'm having migraines all the time, why I was having those seizures that were happening out of the blue. It's just, it's obviously when you're struggling with something for so long, it's definitely nice to be able to put a label on it. I've always dealt with this. Like I said, this has been going on for about 10 years now, and I've been really, 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 learning how to cope with it. And I think now that I know that there really isn't a way for me to, completely stop it, it's making me realize more that I just do need to continue what I'm doing and just kind of make myself realize and accept that this is just kind of a part of my life. It is really hard, like I have been going out, I'll be walking with friends and I will have to go throw up in a bush. I've been at concerts where I'll have to go throw up. I have been in countless Ubers where I'm in the car and I get random just aches and I just have to ask them to pull over so I can go throw up. Not even, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I was at the mall and I was walking around. I was in the bookstore and I got some makeup at Sephora. I was walking around Sephora for probably 45 minutes and then as soon as I got in line, I felt this brush of heat just through my chest and I just felt super lightheaded, like I was gonna pass out, and I had to run to the bathroom and I was stuck in the bathroom for about an hour throwing up. So it's crazy how it's like I wake up, I'm perfectly fine. That morning I woke up, I went to the gym, I went and got lunch, I was walking around the mall and went, shopping, and then bam, out of the blue, I was stuck in the bathroom throwing up. And then later that day I was completely fine. So it's really hard, it's hard because, the triggers are stress, overexcitement, overeating, not eating enough. It's basically kind of like you can't be too happy. You can't be sad. You kind of just have to be right there in the middle. So it's very hard to find the triggers. And with me, I have found, I know stress is a big trigger for me, but I also know happiness is a trigger for me. So it's really hard for me to deal with it. Just knowing my triggers and trying to obviously work with not being stressed out but not being happy. So that's something I'm gonna have to get used to. I think a big part of everything is just laughing about it all because there's nothing I can do about it. So, it's just making light of it all, honestly, and I think that that's pretty much all I can do, because if I look down on this and I just find pity of it and just no, there's no cure, there's nothing I can do about it, that is just going to bring more stress and worsen this disorder for me. And hopefully through time I can just learn more with my triggers and just pacing myself and everything so I can get the vomiting and nausea and all of that under control so it won't, interact with my work and my life so much. So, hopefully I'll be able to live a somewhat normal life. I was at my RA doctor yesterday and he was like, do you ever have good days? And that was a really hard question because I sat and I was like, no, I mean, I have good days. I have great days, but there's never a day where I'm not throwing up. I mean, I like to, look at every day as a great day, but there's not really a day where I'm actually waking up and I'm not in pain or I'm not throwing up. There's always something, it's a battle every day that, we got to fight through. But, I love that I'm able to share this with everybody because it's a blessing to know that, we're not alone. And once I posted that I was, I had this cyclic vomiting syndrome, the amount of people that came, forward and said that they had the same exact thing, or that, they know someone that have it, or they're suffering with the same thing and they couldn't find what's wrong with them and they think this is what it is. So it's so awesome to share my story and know that people can relate, and just, I love that we can all just help each other out. And I really, really thank you guys all so much for the support. It's just been amazing. Every time I post anything, you guys are all so amazing and so supportive. And I really can't thank you guys enough. I hope everyone is having a great day, and thank you guys so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'm also going to be posting my Instagram down below. So please go ahead and follow me as well. Any questions or video topics you guys would like, please go ahead and let me know. Thank you guys so much.